Canada will legalize medically assisted dying for people addicted to drugs. That is the dystopian headline coming from Vice News of all places, which has gone viral around the world. That's because for quite some time now, the world has been looking at Canada and the MAID regime under this Liberal government with absolute disgust and shock at what they're seeing. When euthanasia became legal in Canada in 2016, just over 1,000 Canadians applied for the quote-unquote procedure, applied for death. By 2021, the last year that we have for available data when it comes to MAID, more than 10,000 Canadians took their own lives at the hands of the state via a lethal injection. For context, in 2021, MAID was the 7th leading cause of death in Canada. More Canadians died from MAID in 2021 than they did from liver disease, diabetes, pneumonia, Alzheimer's, and influenza.
If you call the number on the government website, they will provide doctors that will sign off for you.
Like many disabled Canadians, she is stuck in a cycle of poverty and despair.
It's no hope for anybody in Ontario. That's a good boy.
So she's planning to end her life with the government's help.
They could have me dead in 90 days. That's what I was told.
Like in my case, the problem is not really the disability. It is the poverty.
Les Landry is in the same position, wanting to live, but seeing no other option than death.
These two are for my asthma. This is for my COPD. Since when did we stop looking at the value of human life in this country?
It's a question people with disabilities and their advocates ask constantly.
It is being seen as compassionate and empathetic in care. So what he did is...
You know, the Nazi euthanasia program started with compassion and care, right?
I'm so glad you said that, because when I got to do trigonometry, we went to the war museums, and what terrified me the most was walking through the World War II portion and seeing the same verbiage.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, definitely.
People were telling me I was going crazy. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No, it's the same thing.
It's identical.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
The mentally ill, the people that are, So what's really...
People too distressed to live.
Thank you.
Right, and the categories keep expanding.
And that's what we're seeing, the expansion. A 17-year-old could walk into a hospital and say, I want to die by MAID, and guess what? If you try to stop it as a parent, you will be arrested. So what's wild about this, though, is Dying with Dignity says that this is a painless death. Well, if you take MAID orally, it takes between 30 minutes to 24 hours. 24 hours of active drowning while you're under a paralytic. So the autopsies are showing that you actually drowned to death, and you're waterboarded to death within your own body, and you can't move or do anything about it.
In fact, we're now so beyond the realm of normal that we have clothing retailers like Simon's putting together ads that promote euthanasia.
Last breaths are sacred. When I imagine my final days, I see music. I see the ocean. I see cheesecake. Even now, as I seek help to end my life, with all the pain, and in these final moments, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
The government of Canada is killing Canadians, and not just a few, and not just the terminally ill. Over 50,000 so far. 50,000! Any organization that kills 50,000 people is a genocidal organization. Period. And I don't care how you dress it up. That's just a fact. That's like a bottom line on a chart. How many people have you killed? Oh, 50,000. Oh. You're not in the good guy category. Sorry, we can't. We're gonna bring you up at The Hague, actually, where you should be. And now, under consideration, apparently next month, is a plan to expand the MAID program, the systematic killing of Canadians, not all of whom are terminally ill, many of whom are just sad, because Canadian society has made them sad. They're gonna expand that to children. And that's the point at which you have to say, I'm sorry. We're not gonna be polite anymore. You literally can't do that. And I don't care if someone, you don't need to be, by the way, a religious freak to think it's wrong for a government to kill people at scale. And I don't care, choice, they'll dress it up. No, it's totally evil, is the truth. And it's deeply revealing of who they are and what they want. It's deeply revealing. The standard of living in Canada, which secretly no American would ever tell you this, because no American ever wants to, well, think about Canada or admit that there are things about Canada that are cooler than the United States, including your Rockies, by the way, which are better. Sorry. But one of the things Canada always had was this incredibly robust middle class. It didn't have these super jagged wealth distributions that the United States had. It was much more like Scandinavia than Dallas. And I personally always liked that. I did. I mean, the downside was some of your, most energetic people left because they wanted to become billionaires, but a lot of really smart people stayed because they liked being around people like them and their neighbors and whatever. That is dying before your eyes. The Canadian standard of living is in free fall at exactly the moment when Canada is importing more people per capita than any nation in the world. It's the highest immigration rate in the world. So this is something that no Canadian will talk about. And you have to ask why. Well, there are two reasons. The first reason is aforementioned. They don't want to offend anybody, and it's touchy, and no one wants to be called a racist. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with population numbers and the strain on available resources, public and private. Housing prices, for example. Your healthcare system, of which you were once so proud. It's so overburdened that it's easier to get into the MAID program than it is to schedule a surgery. It's easier to be killed by the government than healed by the government.
I give you one stat to prove my point, just one.
Go ahead.
It takes one. This is how ridiculous this is. Okay, ready? In 2016, Canada legalized medical assistance in dying. So did California. California has the same population as the entire country of Canada, okay? In that time frame, California has only MAIDed, meaning assisted suicide, 893 people. How many do you think Canada has?
I'm going to assume it's ridiculously high.
Give me a number. Come on, play with me here.
12,652.
Over 50,000.
Oh, smokes.
Canada is a predatory behavior. They're trying to include children down to the age of 12, mentally ill, homeless, and addicts, instead of giving them palliative care.